know if this is the next slide or not, but let's talk about it. So what happens is, in the media, is then so you can see this pattern repeating. So the first thing you see is this, this map of the Marcellus Shale being over the entire state of New York, all the way up to the Bianco, all the way up to the Adirondack. And so, and this is like an actual headline. It says the area has the potential for natural gas. So basically, the media is like set everybody up to be conned or misled or whatever. Because now you've got this huge spatial area, this amorphous, reserve presented to you in the media. So this is what's going to happen. There should be a button down here. No, I mean there should be an arrow.
Yeah.
One more.
One more. It's just really light.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. Wow.
One more. No, this, yeah. Right there.
Okay.
What?
Damn. I see what you're talking about. It doesn't have to. There. Think of that. That is weird. Wow, you Egyptian or something. Yeah, really. Wow. It's like a dexterity thing. Okay, so anyway, the Marcellus height was invented by a professor over at Penn State, and the Energy Information Administration and the state of New York bought it. And so basically, you have this great formation, and the initial estimates were, up to 500 trillion cubic feet of gas, which is enough to. This is kind of the the Wall Street number. This is, by the way, is the technically recoverable. It's not the economically recoverable or whatnot. And then subsequently, even very quickly, as soon as they started drilling a lot of wells, that got cut back by about a fifth by the USGS, the Geological Survey. And so, oops, did I go too far? I think I did. So anyway, but the DEC took the bait, and so their official estimates of what is in New York State, in the SGIS and Cuomo's mind and in all the press releases, is the median is 159 TCF. Their high end is actually more than half of what is in the entire Marcellus in Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New York. So you can argue. This is in the SGIS. You can argue, well, maybe they're overstating this a little bit for political purposes, for whatever. If you take the USGS number, the 84, so New York is grossly about a quarter of the Marcellus. And when I say a quarter, I mean that even the big area. So you're looking at maybe 21 TCF in New York. But then a peculiar thing happens is that the regs, as kind of tawdry as they are in New York State, they begin to limit the amount that's recoverable. And frankly, just the dynamics of drilling a well. You can't drill one everywhere, despite what Kelly and I will tell you later. As a practical matter, so there are zones that have been excluded famously the reservoirs in New York City. There's local ordinances, and they're just the practicalities of slopes and whatnot. And there's been a study done, and I've published it here, New York record restrictions, on what those aggregate to in terms of restrictions on that gross area. And of course, towns have banned it. Towns have moratoriums on it. And Kelly will emphasize this, I would highly encourage the town and the county to take action on these matters, because I wouldn't expect, Obama to parachute in here and tell me, nor would I expect, Cuomo to ride to the rescue. And there's, of course, as I mentioned, there's these statewide setbacks from wetlands and aquifer and So what's interesting is that it adds about 79% of the reserve area, of the area that would be drilled, which is basically the counties that are adjacent to Pennsylvania. It's like off limits. I mean, I've read the study, it seems pretty high to me. But I mean, if that's true, then all of a sudden, even by based on the USGS is published, then you're down to 4.2 TCF in New York, which means that they're off by, you know, as much as 56 times the state of New York, the S guys. So I mean, they're overstating this even from that analysis, you know, 10 times to 56 times, which is this USGS data and peer-reviewed studies.
What's TCF?
Trillion cubic feet. Listen, by the way, we're going to try and hold all the questions until the bitter end. Now, and that's even before we got to the geology of the matter. The interesting thing about, and Lou Olstad has done a good bit of work on this, is that the shale in New York has been tested like a lot. I mean, hundreds of test wells. They've gone back years. There's been a talk about where the fairway would be, and I'll show you how it's more of a rough than a fairway. And I don't even play golf. I'm not sure what either of those terms mean. And Jerry Acton has projected the results of Pennsylvania and the New York State. I'll go over that real quickly. And then I'll show you where the actual drilling permits are from people, from basically credible drillers that might actually drill a well here. The first thing is to think that all these wells that have been logged, the data is available in terms of what their carbon content, whether it's oil, wet gas, dry gas, how thick the formation is, what the pressure is of the formation, both as a function of the depth and what the internal pressure is. The density, the porosity, all this stuff is generally known on these wells that have been logged. And the key thing here is that a lot of this logging has gone down to the Black River. In other words, a lot of these test wells have gone through both of the shales that we're going to talk about, gone down to the Orodovician, right through the Silurian that nobody evidently cares about, and to the Devonian or through the Devonian where these shales are. So this is a map of just some of the logging that's been done on wells that have gone through both of these shales. This is the Black River Trenton wells that have been logged. And the interesting thing about the Marcellus in both states, but particularly true in New York, is that it's actually more than one shale. It's actually the Marcellus shales. And that is composed of two main intervals. One of them is the top one is called the Otka Creek, which I've learned is some creek out in the western part of the state. And the other one is the Union Springs, which is some town out in the Finger Lake. So the key thing here is the Otka Creek, which is actually the thicker part of the shale in the Marcellus shales in New York. It's what they call gray shale, meaning it doesn't have much carbon in it, doesn't have much in anything, much gas, dry gas, no oil. The Union Springs is pretty rich, to put it mildly, with carbon. It's dry gas, but that's basically the target down in Pennsylvania. So then you look at how thick is the Union Springs in New York, and you find that it doesn't get to be more than 100 feet thick just about anywhere in the state. It's a couple of 300 feet thick down in Pennsylvania. At this point, the key thing here is that if it's not thick enough, it's kind of hard. It's not exactly may not be worth much to frack it horizontally. Because think about it, you've got to pay a whole lot of money to drill a lateral right through, if you've got lucky, went through it right to the middle. It's only going to be 50 feet thick on either side of it, and the frack is capable of going like as much as 1,000 feet or more. So it's like the economics get to be kind of iffy. I mean, there's other variables, namely the carbon content, but still. I don't think so, just from the outset. This is another isopac map of the thickness. It looks kind of like a parrot for some reason. Gotta stop drinking. And you know, that, the eye of the parrot, I know that's really scientific, is just southeast of Dimmock. It's real thick, it's over like 250 feet. Up, you get up to the New York border line, which is that horizontal line, continuous across there, and it thins out very quickly. It doesn't, I don't show it coming over this way, but it's sort of the same, more or less the same story. It gets very thin quickly. And the other thing you've got is, other than the well logs on the organic content, is you've got the drilling logs. And this is something kind of people don't think too much about. But when you drill one of these wells, you're getting back drill cuttings, and the drill cuttings are sampled, and they basically show you what you're drilling. You know, it's like a core sample. It just happens to come back all crumbly. And the drilling mud, the amount of drilling mud and the pressure, the weight of the mud that you have in the drilling column, if you hit gas, if you're going to the Black River and you go through the Marcellus and you get this big kick in the mud, the pressure, you hit a pressurized, over-pressurized, it's going to kick the mud right back up. And if you don't get quick, you're going to have to put more weight into it to keep it down. So the fact is even when you're drilling these things, you can just like viscerally know when you hit a highly pressurized gas formation. And any well now would have a drilling log on it. So they would have a report on this, both the drill cutting and the mud log of, you know, that they would note that they had a boom when they went through something. That's basically how they find the eagle fruit in South Texas, is that, you know, when they get it, they know it when the mud starts wanting to come back up. So the data that's available, the media and the geologists took, and they projected it. Unfortunately, it's kind of fainter, but then they start projecting where they think the fairway is, you know, which always amused me that they would call it that. And this is a case, that's the Marcellus fairway. It's, you know, it's actually it's probably the Utica, because it goes all the way to the outcrop that's the outcrop of the Marcellus to the north end of Otsego County. So there's, you know, this huge area that's supposed to be productive. But then you take all this data, and more importantly, you take the data on the actual wells in Pennsylvania. We make some assumptions that the porosity is about the same, and, you know, from one side of the border, that the carbon content is about the same, that it's all dry gas, it's not, you know, oil in Delaware County and dry gas in Blaine County or something like that. That it's, that part of it is kind of continuous. And then you start taking the data of the wells, and these are IP initial production data, and you start plotting by township, as shown here. And you can see this graph over on the right. You go from some really kick behind producers, 31, 71, and but you get down very quickly as the shale thins, and also as the depth becomes shallower, to some less productive wells. And then you get, so we take that data, and you can project it with a fair amount of certainty over into New York State, and you see that as you move over into Broome, Chemung, Tioga, you're already into areas that would in Pennsylvania would be below average producers. You move a little further north, even in Broome County, and you get to what would probably be effectively a dry hole. So in other words, you extrapolate those results in Pennsylvania over into New York. And so areas like Chenango County and Otsego County, it's just, they're just going to be basically dry holes. And I mean, dry holes in the sense that gas could go to $12 an MCF, and it's probably unlikely that it would be drilled. It wouldn't be worth it. You get, you get the same thing, you get to Schoharie County, you can make that out in that map, or you get here, frankly. And it's just unlikely that the wells would be productive in the Marcellus. Now, so you think, well, what the curious thing is that, where's that darn arrow? That's I'm kind of, this being restating this, is that we talk a little bit about the Utica, but these are the Utica test wells in the state. I mean, the Utica's been tested. They talk about it as it being some mysterious, way down there. Well, actually, it's not so way down there, because it's every time you go to the Black River, you go. So the USGS came up with what they called the Utica Fairway in the state of New York about 2 years ago. Same suspects, Broome County, Delaware. And this area had been leased, and this map is actually, Lou told me this is out of date. This has been, all these wells in Otsego County have been plugged and abandoned. When I did this map, actually Karen Edelstein did this map, I showed it as being temporarily abandoned, meaning they're in limbo. And now they just, gone straight to hell with the rest of them. Meaning the Utica has been tested, the Marcellus has been tested in Otsego County, and they were dry holes, and they were P&A. And again, they have the mud logs, and they log the wells. They tried to sell the leases. There's 23,000 acres involved here. Couldn't sell it. This was Gaston, it was a penny stock company out of Toronto. And then in Chenango County was Norse, who went bankrupt a week ago Friday. Same thing, they tested the Marcellus, they tested the Utica. This is in the fairway, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean, of the Utica and the Marcellus, and dry holes. They couldn't sell their leases, and they went bankrupt. So they basically proved that that fairway does not exist, or it certainly doesn't extend that far north. This arrow is not cooperating. So then, sort of the validation of this is, where are the actual horizontally hydrofrac well permit applications at the DEC? And there are a few. Where are they left? There were some Norse permits on file, but we can't erase them because they're toast. So this is basically this is what's left in the whole entire state. This is Chesapeake's permits and Exxon's XTO permits. The XTO permit is that green one, and XTO is Exxon. Exxon XTO had 5 permits as at the beginning of the year, and they dropped 4 of them, so they're down to 1 at the end if you don't mind. And so basically that's where the industry think there might be some productive gas. These are Marcellus permits, by the way. This doesn't mean that they're going to get them, those permits. They haven't gone through environmental review. But all it really means is that they have the spacing unit requirement, which is nominally 640 acres a section, a square mile, to ownership of those mineral rights to be able to get even apply for a permit. But remember we started out with a map that went all the way to Toronto, and we didn't think so as of 2 years ago, and this is where it is as of like a week ago. That's it. And this is a curious thing, when you think about it. The people that had been hyping this, Cuomo and the rest of them, they know this. These are on file with the DEC. This one happens to be up. This is the Exxon permit. It's literally right up the river from Josh, on a trout stream. So good luck converting that to a well. At least you get on Gaslands 3 if you did. Then a quick thing on the economics. This Marcellus and probably the Utica in New York is dry. As we said, the New York State wells are probably going to be less than the Pennsylvania. And the key thing here is that there's really no financing to go explore for dry gas. And those wells, those permits that I showed you were dry gas. Lou doesn't think Chesapeake will have the budget to go even drill those wells. It's not like they wouldn't have the money in absolute terms, but they just wouldn't allocate money to go explore for dry gas. The Exxon might do it, but the gas wells in northeast Pennsylvania the gas would have to be more than $4.50 an MCF for them to even break even. It's like, $3.80 and change. So it's below break even. And if you can believe the Energy Information Agency, which nobody else does, the gas prices won't be up. That will be adequate to drill those wells until like 2020. You know, and that's, it takes some, you know, that's LNG and everything.
Jeff, you need to tell us what dry gas is.
No, let's do this, if we can, let's have the questions at the end. If you don't mind.
We can't understand what you're saying if you don't define your terms.
Let's hold it at the end, because I got a lot more here. Dry gas is methane. Liquid, wet gas is propane. It's very simple. Now, so then you've got, you know, kind of, what are the downsides of overstating all this? Well, you know, the one that strikes us is that it's like the planning for the southern tier is sort of based on wishful thinking, that all this is benefit, all these benefits are going to come in here. That's, you know, that's the whole southern tier economic development, is that this is going to happen. What happens if it doesn't happen? The people that are counting on gas to, you know, save the family farm and whatnot. All these wildcat wells that would be drilled to test, they have the potential to pollute. Any one of these wells that gets drilled can ruin a road. If there's no road use agreement in place at the county or the town level, a wildcatter will come here, tear up the roads. If they don't find it, then they'll leave. And they're not obligated to pay anything to fix the road if they're not subject to a road use agreement. And that's exactly what they do. You know, I've been so many that said, well, they fix the roads. What if they don't find any gas? You really think they're going to fix the road? They're not going to fix the lead. And of course, the thing with New York is that whatever frack waste, drill cuttings, whatever comes out of Pennsylvania or anything south of here, they got to get rid of it somewhere. It's illegal to dump you know, frack waste on a road in Texas, but it's legal here. You know, they call it brine. So you buy sardines in brine. Quickly, none of this economically is sustainable. This was a study done in the Delaware River Valley of the annual value of different industries, timber being at the top. The value of the water alone is worth more than what the gas production would be, based even on these Engelers, on those high estimates of what the productivity would be in Pennsylvania and in New York. And of course, the shale is not, you know, you're looking at maybe 10 years of that, even if everything worked right, versus these others which are offensively or truly sustainable. The thing is, the curious thing here is that we think that Cuomo knows all this. It's hard to believe that he doesn't. He knows that there won't be any local jobs. It doesn't, you won't hire people locally to do a test well. There won't be any tax because the non-producing well doesn't go on the ad valorem tax rolls. And a lot of these will be non-producers. So there aren't any votes. You know, the polls are going against it. He certainly doesn't seem to be in any rush. And lately, they only talk about is casinos. You know, they don't even talk about shale gas as being an economic driver anymore. They talk about casinos. As soon as they started talking about casinos, it told us, is like, you know, he doesn't know what to do about this, frankly. If he green lighted it, he'd only dealing with about 3 or 4 permits. Just a second. Then so some conclusions. Well, again, you have to be realistic about what this equates to in terms of regional planning, town planning. I mean, anybody that thinks that they're going to, depending on where they are, that's going to bring jobs to the town. If they're running for political office, you know, it's going to be taxes and jobs. No, it's not going to be taxes. It might be some jobs for, you know, some crews from out of state. Got to take the hype out of it. The regs have got to anticipate that this isn't going to be such a gravy train, that the regs are going to have to be a little bit more skeptical. I've written on this in some of my papers, but when you look at the regs in New York, they're actually worse than they are in most western states. And you still have to address the downsides because they're going to have to get rid of those toxic radioactive drill cuttings somewhere. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.